Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to our Innovation Envy webinar today. My name is Miranda. I'll be joined by Scott, our Senior Client Partner, and Matt, our CEO. They will be sharing stories from successful disruptors and innovators. As a next generation insight agency, innovation has always been part of our DNA. We empower people to share the future of our clients' brands through proprietary consumer community technologies, our trend and creative networks, and next generation thought leaders as well. We have been quite lucky. We have been working with quite a number of world's best brands. They are both the innovative incumbents and disruptors. We surely will be sharing a lot of examples today. For those of you who have joined our last Customer Revolution webinar, you may recall the challenge that Volkswagen was facing. Increasingly, in the automotive industry, actually many other industries as well, were becoming more homogeneous. So differentiation has become more important than ever. If we look around in supermarkets, the house brands, many of them imitate a leader from the world in color, shape, sizes, format. So pretty much difficult to tell noticeable differentiations from one or the other within the category. Wada, a small but growing women's cosmetic brand, very exciting brand in Indonesia. They started off with a very focused strategies. They looked at the opportunities, very agile. They targeted the Muslim women for the makeup and skincare products. The proposition is our products meet halal standards, which is quite an important choice criteria for this group of people. As a new startup, of course, very limited budget. You can't spend unlimitedly. So they went for a very targeted strategy. They focus on targeting women at the Islamic colleges, targeting the traditional beauty stores, and the beauty advisors not only show the people how to use the Wada's products, but also take time and enthusiasm to explain how the product is formulated using the halal methods, keeping in mind their religious values, their chosen lifestyle. So we have seen in the past 5 years, Wada has more than doubled its market share in the personal care category. Not just in the everyday brands that we have seen and witnessed all the disruptions. In Hong Kong, we are welcoming 8 new virtual banks like Moss here from Standard Chartered. The next generation no longer go to the banks, and the bank comes to us. Banks become more human, more like us, talking to us, looking like us, and behaving like us as well. They meet us where we are. Another example in South Korea, the launch of Kakao Bank, you can see is very different from the traditional bank that you can imagine. And it created a lot of excitement and enthusiasm in South Korea, and it's never seen before. And by the end of last year, they have already attracted more than 10 million customers. So the learning is there. Being relevant, easy, unique is important, but is that enough? Perhaps some kind of excitement and is still important for the next generation. So no wonder one of our clients, Elaine Rodrigo, you might know her, she described it this way. It's a very, very good sum up. The startups are like the David to our Goliath. So in the past, we're talking about innovation with months to launch onto the shelf. But now these days, we're talking about days. We often underestimate the agility and speed of the Davids and overestimate the power that comes from the size of Goliaths. So let us share some inspirations from companies that are distilling the DNA of successful disruptors. So first of all, we have our speaker, Scott, and he will go through broad examples across various global FMCG companies. How do they apply their more consumer-centered innovations? Then followed by Mass. Mass will go a bit deeper, share a case in Asia, how SC Ventures has applied this in the area of UX and digital banking innovation. Now, during our session, you might have questions. You might notice on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a Q&A tab. Please feel free to put your questions there. And at the end of the two presentations, we will go through them. So let's now welcome Scott.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, so the question we're going to address today is really, I mean, you saw it from Miranda. There's so many of these disruptors now, isn't there? You know, and whether it's you know, in the FMCG space or even in banking and insurance, you know, big organizations are getting attacked on all sides, I would say. So we're going to try and address the question of how do big organizations stay competitive in this kind of context and environment today. And I'm going to show a variety of cases, but I've organized them around, may I call it, 3 kind of DNA keys or codes, if you like, which are friction, passion, and pilot. Let's start with friction. So, well, if you think about it, right, I'm sitting here in WeWork, actually, where there's a lot of startups. And if you think about startups, what they have in common, I think, is that usually the founder of the startup has a hunch for something that's missing, right? Something that is missing in the customer experience or in the current offerings in the market. And that kind of drives them to explore new solutions. But when it comes to big brands, sorry, can you go back? Sorry, yeah, go forward, sorry. Thanks, Matt. When it comes to big brands, they also need to look for these kind of consumer frictions that many of the startups are very passionate about. And the good news is today, many of our clients, there is the technology. There's things like insight communities that can really help brands immerse in those consumer frictions and really understand how they can get an edge. My first case is from a brand called Quinny. It's a global lifestyle stroller brand, actually, and they had an insight community with us, and they engaged that community of urban millennial parents all around the world. Let's take a look at this video and see what they did.
When the wind blows through the window and the sun goes down all over the city, over rooftops, onto next stops, through the subway down where everything's gritty. When the night comes round, how I love this city. When it all comes down, I love this city. When it all comes down, the city was made for me. The city go high. Oh, I love this city. When the wind blows, lights like rainbows, and the colors splash all over the city. Queuing door lines, hips and invites, when the girls come.
So what Quinny found was that these millennial parents, obviously they really love the city. I think that comes through from this great video. However, they found that when young people become parents, their life changes completely. And you know, even walking out the door becomes a hassle. And they you know, through this community, the urban parents community that you saw there, they were able to really immerse themselves in the lives of these young parents and distill over many weeks all the data into this insight statement that you see here. Now, let me read it out. I love my city and I believe in the opportunities it offers for my child's development. However, a child has forced me to rediscover my city from a different perspective. And something as simple as going out the front door becomes a challenge in terms of mobility. Now, this is what I would call a true insight statement. It's got an emotional aspect, these parents wanting to keep rediscovering and discovering their city, keep exploring, but it's also got a tension, or what we call a friction as well, in terms of their challenges around reduced mobility. But now, prior to having this kind of emotion and this kind of insight, Quinny had used really largely functional means to drive their innovation. But once they had this insight, this very emotional insight around rediscovery, they were able to use it as a platform for really quite out-of-the-box ideas, which you can see here, which is something they called the longboard stroller. It looks like a lot of fun. Almost tempts me to have more children, but not quite. But it's like this one was like a concept car for strollers. But you can see it really starts to live to that insight of showing those young parents they can keep exploring. Now, Quinny sold about 1,200 of those kind of limited edition longboard strollers, but there were other more scalable applications which were the result of this insight that they'd discovered. And that was things like the simulator on their eShop website, which you can see here. And basically what parents can do is they can go in, they can indicate the size of their living space, you know, how much they use public transport, how active they are around the city, how much they like to explore the city. And it helps them select the optimal stroller from Quinny's range. So you see here what we've got is we've got just one insight that is a platform for all of Quinny's new innovations and mobility solutions. And when we do insight communities, we find that we get a lot of data, because if you can imagine, if you're immersing in consumers for 3 weeks, that's a lot longer than your average 2-hour focus group. So you get a lot of diary material, pictures, all sorts of things. So there's a lot of data, but it means it's really important to synthesize and craft that together into something that looks like that insight statement that you saw for Quinny. And indeed, other clients like Heineken here, what they found is that when they've got a community, not only can they use it to kind of immerse and curate those insights, but they can then go back to that community to validate those insights and see which ones are most relevant, which ones are most unique. So they really find out what are the kind of hot button frictions that they need to solve. And what Heineken have discovered is that if they do that kind of insight validation at the beginning of the innovation process, then concepts that they develop later based on those insights score much better. They score 25 to 30% higher. But even if you've got the insights, and even if you validate those insights, it can sometimes be really challenging to get organizations to embrace those insights. So, for example, you know, in this particular case, Unilever wanted to bring to life the gap between the consumer and the business in terms of their understanding, and really to help activate these insights. And this was around the topic of sustainability, and specifically for leftover food. So they gave a simple task to consumers and employees. They asked them to take pictures of their fridge, believe it or not, and describe it. Let's have a look at the employee view. So this is the employees at Unilever working on sustainability and how they go about approaching fridge management. Now you can see the fridges are basically highly organized, aren't they? It doesn't look like my fridge at all. Lots of kind of glass containers, everything is stored away nicely. It's like Marie Kondo has been to visit. And the people working at Unilever, they have a very clear kind of first in, first out principle for their fridge management. So whatever goes in, it comes out the next day and is used for lunch. You compare that to consumers, you can see the gap. And consumers basically describe their fridges as, I love this phrase, hot mess. I thought fridges were meant to be cool, but basically never organized. It contains, as this consumer said, it contains fresh things and things which are past their expiry date. And interestingly, this simple task showed the gap between the business and the consumers in another way, which was consumers don't have the same mindset around leftovers. They basically will put the leftovers in the fridge knowing full well that they're never going to eat them, basically to avoid the guilt of leftover food. So simple immersion exercises can get you insights, but they can also help you bring to life the gap in thinking and understanding between the business and the consumer, helping to make those insights travel further within the business. So that's my first kind of DNA code, if you like, which is immersion, understanding those consumer frictions, and if you like, really getting what I call a true consumer insight, emotion and friction and tension, etc. But once you've got that friction, it's time to start solving them. And the next kind of DNA code we've got is passion. And if you think about it again from an entrepreneur's point of view, it does require a lot of passion and dedication to start a business and to generate those types of breakthroughs. And that's, as big organizations, that's the type of thing that we've got to also emulate, I suppose. Now, I imagine most of you have had experiences with internal brainstorming workshops. I'm not sure how successful you feel those are or how much you enjoy them. It seems these days the trend is workshops have become hackathons. They've become things called scrums. But some of the data we've looked at is that 70% of these scrum initiatives actually are not successful. And I guess the thing is, even if you manage to pull all of your kind of senior executives, all your talent together for a hackathon, weekend hackathon, there's no real guarantee that everyone's going to be able to generate great ideas. And this matches our experience. And some of those of you who joined us at the Customer Journey Revolution webinar might remember the VW case that we had, the Volkswagen case study, where they also, to begin with, relied on some internal brainstorming workshops to generate ideas on top of the customer frictions that they discovered. And again, at the end of that workshop, they felt a little bit disappointed because they were only internally able to generate kind of low-hanging fruit, simple ideas. And that's a big issue if you think about it. If you're a brand where a real breakthrough is vital, and this is true in the FMCG space for one of our clients here, which is from Reckitt Benckiser, which is a great name brand. I love this name, Sillet Bang, which is a global power cleaner, as I said, from Reckitt Benckiser. Now they were having to address declining brand penetration and commoditization of the power cleaning category. Now you can imagine, Me Too ideas are just not going to cut it when you're up against those kind of business challenges. And similarly, they had the same experience as Volkswagen, which was they immersed in a community, understood the habits, discovered the frictions, then went into the kind of internal ideation workshops. But again, disappointed, they were largely Me Too ideas that were coming out. So that's why they turned to our global ICA community, which some of you might recall from our previous webinars. It's basically a community of 400,000 creatives all around the world. And in this case, for Sillet Bang, the ICA community were able to generate in just 3 days over 100 ideas. Many of them quite out of the box, as you can see here. And you can see like the quality of the ideas from the ICA global community. They're quite well developed. It's not just a few lines. People put a lot of effort into these. They visualize them. The one I like particularly here, I don't know whether you can see you can't quite see the details, but you can see the picture is the Purify 360 in the top left there, which is you basically put this thing at the bottom of your shower, press a button, stand back, and it produces a kind of a jet of power cleaning material that sprays your whole shower, and then you can just wash it away without sort of bending over and having to do your back in. So, so the ideas are really quite out of the box indeed. And so this can be really can really help in the process where brands are getting stuck. And another example is this brand here, which I'm sure a lot of you know. My kids certainly know this brand very well, which is Doritos. And Doritos, whether you know it or not, their brand DNA is about adventure and excitement. So, you know, they really need breakthrough ideas when they're doing things. And Doritos in Mexico also used the ICA network to crowdsource a new SKU for Halloween, believe it or not. And there were lots of ideas, but the winning idea, you can see the picture from the creative network in the bottom left there. It was basically a crisp in the bag that acted as almost like a paint bomb that coloured your mouth blue. And that idea got evolved by the team at Doritos and became kind of a super spicy surprise crisp, which kind of gamified the whole experience of basically eating a bag of crisps. But that kind of excitement, that kind of gamification actually matters because in the Doritos case, the new product achieved double-digit growth, and it in fact became a permanent SKU, not just a Halloween SKU. And you can see then that some of the media campaigns that were then sort of evolved around that became quite a significant SKU for them. So, you know, finally on these kind of creative network, the ICA network, some of you may also recall when we did our COVID consumer, our mask webinar, we set the ICA network a challenge, if you recall, which was to come up with ideas to help people basically overcome the tensions or the frictions of living in lockdown, with COVID-19. And in this case, you know, just in over a week, ICA generated almost 150 ideas in the different areas you can see here. And believe it or not, those 150 ideas came from 35 different countries from across the ICA network. So, you know, it really just goes to show, you know, great ideas these days, they really can come from anywhere. And indeed, I really like this quote from the head of design at Lego. And of course, Lego are very well known for crowdsourcing with Lego enthusiasts, new Lego products. But what he says is that, look, by definition, 99.9% of the world's smartest people just don't work with us. That's why when it comes to this kind of stage within the innovation process, we have this kind of rule where it's really important to engage the right crowd at the right moment in the whole innovation process. And we refer to this as the 99-1 rule. And it's based actually on some Forrester research, which says that, look, if you've got 100 people, 90 of those people are kind of regular mainstream consumers. And their skill, if you think about it, is they know what they like and they dislike. They can validate your concepts, your ideas. Then there's kind of 9 people out of 100, 9%, who are probably people like us who work in maybe marketing, you know, who are a bit more influential, a little bit more aware of the trends. You know, we're good at curating ideas into concepts, right? But then there's only 1 in 100, actually, according to Forrester, who are very good at creating a breakthrough idea on your own. And those actually are the people that we have in the ICA network who can generate all those wonderful ideas that you've just seen. And what we're seeing with some clients now is that they're able to, in quite smart ways, I would say, combine these different crowds together in a very agile process. So Royal Canin here, part of Mars Pet Food, which is one of our key clients globally, they really bring these elements together. So they will start here, if you see in the top left, they'll start by the immersion on an insight community. Again, trying to understand those frictions, those needs that dog owners and pet owners have. Once they've got those frictions, they repurpose those, they re-express those as a creative challenge for our ICA network. They get the ideas. In this case, they got about 70 ideas. And those 70 ideas then go back to the client. And the client is able to, in a digital workshop, to kind of curate those ideas and flesh them out into concepts. And we find that those types of workshops are much more successful, where internal stakeholders can kind of build on what the ICA ideas are, rather than starting with a blank page. And indeed, this goes one step further, because those concepts that are curated by the internal workshop are then put overnight back onto that pet owners, dog owners and cat owners community. So you can really quickly find out which of those ideas, concepts are working or not. So we've got, I guess, 2 out of the 3 DNA things, right? So first of all, we had our frictions. We had our true customer insights through immersion. We went on to find some breakthrough ideas with different crowds, like the ICA network, but also curating with consumers, with internal stakeholders. The last element I really want to talk about is piloting, or pilot. Now, what that's all about is this kind of balance of being able to proceed forward with your concepts and your products with the right balance of courage, but also caution. And let's take a look at this. Now, why do I say that? Well, if you look at many big companies, I would say their innovation process is often characterized by what some people would refer to as kind of this traffic light syndrome. And what I mean by that is that when you get to the end of the innovation process, there's kind of lots of testing and check boxes, testing the product, testing it in laboratories, testing the flavors, testing the pricing, and this can go on for months. Actually, it's not unusual for it to go on for 6 months, just at the end of the whole innovation process. And what a lot of clients are finding is that kind of I guess perfection, in a way, is becoming a bit of an enemy of progress. It's delaying launches. It's meaning that you're investing a lot of effort kind of checking products which don't always pass all of those check boxes. And if you think about it, if you think about disruptors, startups, entrepreneurs, they don't work like this. They generally tend to, have the courage to jump forward even when they see just an amber light, let alone a green light. And besides, if you think about product launches, as our client Dieter at Danone says, even when you launch a product, it's not finished. To be honest, that's just where it all starts. There's a whole load of learning and go-to-market things going on after that. And again, if you look at a successful startup, and I think this is very true if you look at the different virtual banks in Hong Kong, none of them has the perfect plan at launch. None of them knows exactly all of the different product features that they're going to be launching, but they've launched and they seem willing to learn as they go. They have this kind of launch and learn mentality, and their mindset is different. It's we will learn and we'll optimize on the go. And we are seeing this now, even within the FMCG space, I would say, this kind of beta testing mentality, I suppose. And one of our clients, PepsiCo, adopted this kind of beta testing mentality for the launch of one of their brands, which is called Drinkfinity. Now, I don't know whether you come across Drinkfinity, but you see it from the picture. It's quite an interesting product. So it has a kind of a vessel which you put water in, and you can combine that with these kind of flavor pods, I guess, that you can see there, which have different dry and also liquid ingredients. And so they were wanting to launch this globally, and I guess the traditional way would have been to do, honestly, months and months of kind of product testing in different markets with consumers. But they felt that they really had something special. They wanted to go to market quicker, so they decided to set up a community of 3,000 employees this time, and they basically gave these employees the product. Said, right, play with it, tell us what you think. And then through the community, they were able to get lots of great feedback from their employees on the overall product concept, the product design, even how to kind of name these different kind of features and product things, how to bundle the product, even how to make the user experience of mixing the pods and the water together better. And what it meant was that they were able to move forward much quicker and introduce Drinkfinity into major markets like the US and then globally much quicker. And this kind of acceleration, I suppose, is happening for many different FMCG brands. Danone as well here, just a quick example. They have an innovation accelerator program. And I guess, again, traditionally they might have done testing of yogurts and ice creams in a studio in a very controlled way. It would have taken a lot of time, but they forego that now. They actually kind of create flavors very quickly. They then test them in kind of pop-up stores on the streets for a few weeks, just so that they can get that quick feedback, accelerate learning, and get to market much quicker. And then final example I've got for you in this area of piloting. It's not always about going faster. It's not always about accelerating. Sometimes piloting can give you the courage to pull back, to actually stop and rethink. So Fleer, I don't know whether you come across this, it's an interesting brand actually. It's a global leader in infrared cameras, which is used by architects and construction workers. You can see some of the pictures here. Now Fleer were essentially thinking, should we offer this to the consumer market? Should we, expand into the consumer market? And again, they created an insight community with consumers this time, and they basically gave the consumers on that community the product. So that you can see here, comes with an app on your phone as well, and they let people try it out to see, what would be the potential of this with the consumer market. Interestingly, people were really enthusiastic about this, and I guess it does sound kind of fun to go around the home, kind of detective, almost like a detective, looking at where you've got leaking heat problems, where you need insulation or whatever it happens to be. But interestingly, on that community, when they went back to people several weeks later, that excitement had actually dissipated very quickly. So, even a few weeks later, they were asking people, so where did you store your Fleer device? And people couldn't even remember where they put it, because that excitement had worn off. They'd solved the problems. This was a kind of a one-hit wonder potentially in the consumer market. So by piloting it very quickly in this way with consumers on the community, Fleer were able to say, let's pull back, let's rethink how we go to market here. Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a way to rent this rather than to sell this product. So I hope those give you a flavour of different examples of how some larger organisations are kind of adopting some of the DNA principles, if you like, of startups and entrepreneurs. And just to summarise, the three things are friction. So many of our clients are using insight communities to immerse for many weeks, if not months, in consumers' lives, to craft and validate consumer frictions and true insights. They're secondly using different crowds like ICA to really get breakthrough ideas that they can feel passionate about. And using those different crowds at the right time, using the 1%, the 9%, the 90%, as we saw from that Forrester research. Before finally, many of our clients using piloting to kind of accelerate the go-to-market learning, as you saw at the end there, by beta testing, piloting, giving them the courage to move to market faster, get those things out faster to remain competitive, or to pull back in the case of Fleer, etc. So that's really very much in the FMCG space. I'll hand over to Maz now, and you'll see perhaps how, when we look at the digital space and the UX space, some of these DNA adaptations are also playing out.
Great. Thank you, Scott. And good afternoon, everybody, or if you're joining us from the other side of the world, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you on this call. I think Scott's presentation was very good in giving us a nice wide range of inspirations, lots of different ideas from different categories to get those creative juices going. I'm going to go deep. I'm going to focus just on one case study for Standard Chartered Bank. This was the launch of their Cards Pal app. It's just launched in Singapore. It's available first of all in Singapore. So if you're based in Singapore, you can actually go to the App Store and download it. If you're not based in Singapore, come over. It's a great place to live. You can live here. It's fantastic. Get a flight over and enjoy yourself. So yeah, so that's that. Now I'm going to start the presentation with a question, if I may, and that question is to ask you: have you ever been in a situation? Let's say you're paying for a meal with your credit card, or you're at the retail counter and you're paying for some goods, and the person that's serving you says, oh, did you know that we've got a deal with HSBC or Citibank or Standard Chartered or someone, and you can get 10% off your purchase today? And you think, great, wow, fantastic, I'm going to get 10% off my purchase today. And that's great. But when you find yourself in that situation, it's fantastic. You just got 10% off something that you were going to pay full price for. But if you actually think about it, that's a little bit of a problem. You know, first of all, the consumer, myself at the store, I wasn't really aware of the promotions that the credit card company were offering. What other promotions might there be that I'm actually not availing of? And then think about it from a retailer perspective. You know, they've just given a 10% discount to somebody who would have paid a full price. Which is a bit of a shame, and they're also not managing to drive people into the store as a result of the promotion itself. So that was an issue there, and it's that friction point for both retailers and for consumers that this credit card buddy concept, this Cards Pal concept, is built around. Because finding credit card deals has traditionally been quite difficult. If you think about it, if you want to find credit card deals, you have to dig around various websites. You maybe have to go onto retailers' websites or banks' websites, and so it means that people are missing out on credit card deals just because there's a lack of information for where they can get those deals. And there's a whole bunch of information around on various different websites, which is obviously causing a bit of a problem. So what if we could make it simpler? What if we could actually bring all that information that's there on several different websites into one place? And that's really what Standard Chartered did. So a couple of years ago, there were changes in the regulations, which made it easier to access banks' products and service information, and bring that information, bring that data under one roof in a single app. And that's what led to the launch of Cards Pal, which is the only app you'll need if you were looking for credit card deals. So what does Cards Pal actually do? Well, Cards Pal can recommend the best credit card for you. Cards Pal can find the best deal based on your interests. So whether you're into dining or retail or leisure, it can be customized in order to put the deals ahead for you. It can tell you about nearby promotions using geolocation information, and it can actually suggest which card is better for you based on the purchases that you are planning to make. So how did Standard Chartered develop the Cards Pal from an idea into an app? So actually, interestingly, when it was first launched as an idea, the concept was called Credit Card Buddy. It wasn't called Cards Pal. So Credit Card Buddy was an idea that was first submitted into Standard Chartered's SC Ventures Accelerator program. It's like a incubation place for new ideas, and it's a program where Standard Chartered staff can actually submit their ideas and get funding and support for those ideas to see if they have a business case for launch. So that was only in June 2019. That was just a year or so ago that idea was pitched to the program. And of course, once they're pitched into the program, there's a need to make a business case, and quite rightly, the business case needs to be sure that we are really identifying and solving a real consumer problem. So as Scott said, we need to be sure that there's a friction. Is there a friction with the way that people are using cards at the moment? And so we jumped into action. We worked together with Standard Chartered. We did a survey of consumers in both Hong Kong and in Singapore. We took that data, we deep dived to kind of identify potential customer personas that we could target. And then having identified the key people for the app, we brought them into a short-term community where we could deep dive with them. We gave them the beta version of the app and got them to actually test and play with the application. And all the insights that generated led to the soft launch of the product in January this year, and just recently the full launch in partnership with MasterCard, which has just come into the market. So I'm going to go through what we learned along the way, like with all the research that we did. What did we actually find? Well, first we wanted to kind of validate the concept. Does it fix a real problem? And are people, in Hong Kong or Singapore, how are they using the app? Well, we found that there was strong support for the concept in both Hong Kong and Singapore. When we tested the pain points, there were significant proportions of people that were finding it hard to find promotions. But what we found was that that data pointed to Singapore being a potentially better market for the initial launch and the focus of the research going forward. So Singaporeans, we found, were more likely to use credit cards more often. They were more likely to use credit cards for significant occasions which the Cards Power app meets. So, for example, shopping occasions, dining occasions, entertainment occasions, and they did respond to the concept more positively and felt those pains more drastically. And so Singapore was prioritized as an initial market for the launch. And it was interesting at the outset of the research. We had together with SC Ventures hypothesized potential target personas, potential target users of the app. And it's an app, so you're going to think, okay, it's going to be for young people. So we had two kind of young contemporary people, fresh grad Tim and quality Charlotte, tech savvy professionals, so on and so forth. But when we actually dug into the data, it wasn't so much quality Charlotte, it was actually bargain hunter Sally. So it wasn't so much the young people, but it was actually a mother on a budget who wants some money to go the distance. That had the highest propensity for the usage of the app, and it helped to debunk a myth that the app was only going to be used by those kind of tech savvy young people. And so what we did was we took bargain hunter Sally and fresh grad Tim, and we recruited them into a short-term community. So what we were able to do is actually give those users the app, ask them to download it and start using a beta version of the app over a course of a multiple weeks period. And the kind of activities that we did amongst those people, we got them to use the app, we set them a task, and we recorded their screen as they used the app so that the designers could see what is the usage experience that people are having. And we got them to load videos of their experience so that we could actually hear in their voice what their experience was. So you can see some of those videos running there. And for a designer, that's really important feedback to get both the positives and the negatives for how people are feeling. We had forums to deep dive, get those insights because they're moderated so we can probe. And talking about moderation, we also did one-to-one moderated interviews, like a usability test where we can share screens, set tasks, and actually view people real time as they use the app. So what do we find? So we found firstly that fresh grad Tim and bargain hunter Sally, well, they had different psyches when it came to using the app. So bargain hunter Sally, she had the investor psyche. So when she uses the app, she wants to know that she's earning money. She's spending to save money. She's managing her finances very, very well. Whereas fresh grad Tim, well, he had the spender psyche. When he spends, he wants to be happy. He wants to feel free and vital and enjoy the spending that he's doing. So that psyche actually helps the designers to start to understand some of the features that they need to put within the app's design. But it was a little bit more than that as well. When it came to actually finding deals, well, Bargain Hunter Sally, she's one of those thorough people. She's going to plan ahead. She's going to look through the app in a lot of detail. She wants to know a lot of things. She's going to dig in to the information. So there needs to be that ability within the app. But as far as fresh grad Tim was concerned, he was more spontaneous, he's more impulsive. He's going to look for convenience within that. He's going to need things popping up at him, to inspire him rather than him having to go and dig around the app. And of course, whenever you design an app or any product, you've got to think about the usage. How do we get people to use it? And how do we get people to stay using it? So, from an emotional perspective, first of all, what we found was that people love to tell each other what a deal they've got. It's like my wife, when she buys a pair of shoes, she comes home, she say, look, I've got a new pair of shoes. And the millisecond after she's told me she's got a new pair of shoes, she's going to tell me like they only cost $5, so she loves to tell me that she's got some kind of deal. And people love doing that, right? And when people love to share information like that, it's the people that have to listen to it. Suddenly they get that FOMO feel, like, hey, am I missing out on some kind of deal that this person got? And I get FOMO. That's how you pick up the emotional need. And we were able to pick that emotional need up because we were in the moment, in the communities. We could follow people in real time and understand what are the emotions that they felt as they interacted in their day-to-day life. But as well as emotional side, you need a functional rationalization. People need to feel that there's a bargain in there for them. There's lots of bargains. In fact, it's like a bargain bonanza. They get quite excited about the range of deals that there are within the app. And so that gives them a functional rationalization for actually signing up and loading up their information into the app. And finally, future proofing. Okay, we get users, but like the case study that Scott mentioned about one-time usage, we don't want that to be the case here. So we need to future-proof. How do you future-proof? Well, what we found was that when people use the personalization features within the app, they were much more likely to go on and use it more and more and more because the app became smarter and smarter at driving that better user experience. So personalization becomes a key factor for future-proofing the use of the app. But in truth, when we first showed them the app and got them to use it, there was a bit of a mixed response. So sure, it made deal hunting a lot easier. It was easy to find deals. And interestingly, what we found was that the information that was in the app was actually quite informative. It was quite educational. And people felt that it was educating them in the way to use credit cards more wisely and the types of things that they should be looking for within the app. So that was all good. But on the downside, people were wary about adding their personal details. How do I know that if I add all my personal details of my credit card, what are you going to do with them? Where does this all go? How do I know that it's all safe? And some people in Singapore who perhaps live further away from the center of a town were disappointed to see that there weren't many deals nearby. So when the nearby deals pane came up, there was hardly anything in it. So they're a bit disappointed in that experience. And some people found it difficult to find the favorites function. It was hidden away and they couldn't really find it. So what the designers did was take that feedback. They used that feedback, iterated the platform again. We took it back to the consumers, got them to test the new features, test and learn, improve, be agile with the development, and finally the CardsPal app was launched with a new improved experience. Just going through some of that. So you see, remember we said that people were concerned about providing their credit card information. Well, now you see right above the Try Now button, it says, don't worry, we won't ask you for any credit card details. And there's even a nice little monkey there with his eyes closed so that they won't even see the information. And the way that the CardsPal works is that you can actually just select the type of card. You don't actually have to give any personal information over. You just select the type of card that you have and it'll take it from there. Secondly, we'd identified that people were stopped seeing many deals. Not too much of a problem because the designers were able to expand the radius of the geolocation search to identify the deals near me. So they expanded it out. So you always saw the deals, and most of the deals are only a short drive or a bus ride away. And so there's something in it for you. And they made the interface a lot more clearer in terms of where the favorites was. They actually put it at the bottom navigation bar. That's kind of the ultimate real estate on any app, is what the buttons that you get at the bottom of that bar. And so they're able to improve it in that way as well. And a really cool feature that was added was this compare cards thing. So you're able to select a couple of cards. After you've selected a couple of cards, you press compare and they come up side by side. You can start to see all the features of that particular card, compare cards, and in that way you learn more and more about how credit card companies package their offers and what they're trying to do to attract and make good deals for their customers. And so test and learn, improve all the time, and the app is now launched and ready to go. So finally then, what are the key takeaways? So first things first, what we found was that, where we were able to listen in to consumers' frictions and tensions, to really make sure that, yes, we do have a friction. There is a pain point here, a job to be done, something to fix for these customers. So making sure we got that and got that clear for the designers was important. We were able to stay in the moment using the community. If you can stay in the moment, you can get both those emotional insights and you can get the rational functional insights as well. And so a community offering enables you to do that because it's in real time. You're seeing people in their real habitat. And lastly, be agile. Test, fail fast, learn. No problem. It's okay to launch something that's not perfect, minimal viable product, or even sometimes we call it minimal lovable product. Get it out, test it, learn, improve, test, and launch again. And so there's the three key takeouts. That's a big thank you to Standard Chartered, first of all, SC Ventures, for allowing us to share that story. And thanks as well to all the team who worked tirelessly on the research as well. And with that, I'm going to hand back over to Miranda.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Scott, as well. If you have missed any of the past events, which we refer to today's webinar, you can access the recordings at our website. Matt, can you click to the next page so everybody can see the website? In case you don't know our company, Insights Consulting. We're APAC Impact, Insights Consulting. Our website is on here and all the previous recordings are here, and today's will also be posting up there as well.